Welcome to the DIY3DTech.com channel.
Okay, so we're back. We got the print bed on. The bolts, a little bit confusing because there's several, or two sets actually, of M330. So I took these out of bag number one because I didn't see the instructions where it called out the bag. But I got them out of bag number one. They have the nuts, then the springs. You can kind of see how this all works right here. So I can have squared up a little bit more, but pretty much, and you have to squeeze it down. The springs do have actually quite a bit of tension on them. So anyways, squeeze them down, set them. And now basically this part of the build is, I believe now, according to the instructions, complete. So we've built the chassis part. So now the next part we're going to do is start the gantry sections. So we'll see you in that part of the video. Cheers. So we've now started the gantry build. If you can see here, one of the things we did do on this one is the pressure fits or tabs were quite a bit more loose fitting. So we have swapped the insides of the tab openings and tabs and used just some Elmer's wood glue, nothing big special. Let's see if it gets in the frame there, to set up. Also, because this kept pulling away, I've used some clamps to put some pressure to let this set up. Basically what you have here is about 5 parts. So you have got this top piece and you have 2 of the back pieces, and this one sits on here, gets tabbed into these side pieces. Well, it's actually more than 5 pieces, it's 7 pieces, because you got 2 on the sides, 2 here, so that's 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces, yes. And so one of the things, I put it all, I dry fitted it, dry fit it, and made sure it all went together. There was a little bit of problems over here. I had to use some finessing to get it in, but however, it did go. Make sure you're aware of where this goes, because the holes have to line up. It has to go this way. This piece has to go to the front, because basically what will happen is this will sit on the front. The lead screw will go through here. The drilling nut will go on here. Motor on the back side of here. Belt through here. So again, you kind of get the idea how it all comes together. Rods will mount on here, so we'll get to all that in a minute in the next piece. But putting these on, again, these 2 screws do tap into the these little Melamine T pieces. So again, it does thread in there, so don't over tighten them. And also make sure you get those tightened down before the glue sets up too, so it pulls it all tight. Also, it's a water-based glue, so clean up as much as possible, as I did here. I got a little bit of residue around. I'll clean that up with some alcohol after it's set. So we're going to have to leave this set for a little bit, let this set up, because I do want this to be very strong, since I have decided to use this gantry, at least initially. So we'll come back to this in a few minutes, and I'll add a few more pieces. So here we've done a little bit more to the gantry build. We've put the idler pulley in, we've put the motor in, the pulley on the motor, we've installed the belt. So I kind of want to talk about a couple of the pieces, how we got here. So again, one of the things I saw on the internet, and I think it's still true, you have to be very careful with this pulley to make sure it goes in straight, this nut, because again, it only holds on to the MDF. Now with this double thickness, I'm not sure if this was the same in the version 1 or not. I haven't gone back, looked at the instructions, but it seems to be quite deep, so it should hold this torque, because there is a lot of pressure on this belt. So a couple things with this I do want to talk about. If you notice, there's a notch out. The notch goes towards this bearing, because what this does is this provides room for the bearing mounting. So if you don't do that, then what will happen is the bearing mounting will get in the way of that. So that's how that goes. This belt is very tight, and it was a little bit of a challenge to get it on, and I actually thought about doing a video for that as I was trying to get it on. What I had to do is loosen this up, connect it to this side first, the motor side, loop it on here, and then walk it around this. So in other words, this plastic piece rotated, and then once the belt popped on, I had to rotate it back so the flat side was over here. But that's really what it took, was to leverage this flat side and then walk the belt around. It's kind of hard to explain, but I think you'll probably get it. Again, just loosen this up, because right now this blue piece won't turn. However, you loosen this bolt up, it will. Then start it back over here. Kind of start this on. If you ever put a pulley on, a belt on a car, works the same way. You kind of start it and work it around. You can kind of use the flat end of a screwdriver too, but I begin very careful because this is plastic. I just used my fingers. It worked, but it wasn't easy. Did get there though. So we've mounted the rails. We put the bearings on. You might have noticed that in the earlier video when we were building the chassis, there was a little bit of a problem with one of the rails sticking. I thought it was with the clamp itself. It wasn't. Turns out that one of the rods is a little bit bent. I put it in the lathe and put a dial indicator on it, trued it up a little bit as best as possible, but it is still a little bit off. So what I did is I put it on this gantry so it'll be easy to replace in the future. The other thing that I've done with this is I've put a real light coat of white lithium grease. Don't know if this is a good or bad thing, just a habit I've gotten into with bearings and things like this is put a real light coating of lithium grease. It never wears out. It's a synthetic grease, makes a very, very thin film, tends to be a bit waterproof. So again, that's what I did. Choose to do it on your own, but it really does improve the movement of these bearings. Again, you put a little bit one. But I can still feel just a slight bit. It's only a few thousandths that this is off. However, it's right about in here that it's off. So when this moves through, it tensions up a little bit. So it takes more force to move. And it actually wants to rotate it a bit too, because it's the movement of it. So anyways, I'll have to get another one. Again, in cheap linear movement type stuff, where you get these Chinese rods, where I'm assuming these come from, you see this problem. So it just is what it is, I guess. So so anyways, we're going to go back. We're going to do some more work on the gantries. I'm going to have to do some inventing here, because one of the pieces were sort of defective at the bottom and broke. So I don't have two full pieces to put on here. And you can notice that this comes real close, because this is designed, I'll get a bearing here somewhere. This is designed to go like this, sit on here, and then sit above this see this bearing, see how that notch sits? So that's probably a good point. This is why it's there, is so this sits here. So anyways, what I might do is change it out. I'm thinking about going back using these, but see, the problem is that one hits there. So I think I'm going to have to stick with the stock one here, and then I think I will just use the modified ones on this side just to complete it, finish it off. So see you in the next video.